Pacific Nations Cup final, folks. Fiji take down the Japanese 41 points to 17 in a magnificent second half. This game was tied up 10 points apiece at halftime. But Fiji, man, the width with which they could play the game, the fact they stopped dropping their passes, the intensity in the second half got them a much-deserved victory. I was talking about, Japanese attack versus Fijian defense based on what we'd seen in the Pacific Nations Cup thus far. But man, did the Fijians unleash some pretty sweet plays in that second half. It wasn't just like scrum dominance and defensive sets that got them the job done. For Japan, pretty slick in the first half, but really struggled for momentum and to maintain that kind of intensity throughout the 80 minutes. But both of these sides are pretty young, and I feel like they'll certainly be better for having played in this tournament. We'll go through the key events and stats and whatnot of the game. I'll give you guys my thoughts, and you guys can let me know yours down in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, because we've been talking Pacific Nations Cup, the entire competition. Good crowd over there in Japan. Good to see the Japanese fans get out there and support the team. And I thought, at home, the Japanese, who are going into this one as slight underdogs, are a chance. And the intensity of the game was pretty high early on, although both sides defensively were able to kind of hold each other out. Points exchange came through penalties, 3 points to 0 to Japan. Fiji cancelled that out with a penalty of their own, so 3 points apiece. Water Dearns was into a bit of everything. He conceded a penalty at the breakdown. He was intercepting. He was stealing a line-out ball. Darren Lungi was also into a bit of everything as well, especially at the breakdown. He was always a threat. And the first try of the game took a bit of wonderment. It was old Dylan Riley, who's had a pretty exceptional tournament for Japan. He's been exceptional, in terms of his attacking prowess, able to use that footwork of his to get some space, and he did it to Fiji. Footwork gives him that little bit of extra, gap around the ball, little dink over the top, gathers it, and it's a pretty slick individual try. 10 points to 3. The Japanese in front, and then the Fijians in return. The handling was a bit loose. A couple of kind of miracle offloads when maybe a little bit of patience was key. They had one moment where Darren Alangi and Droa Sese kind of had a 2-on-1, didn't convert it. It was a little bit frustrating. Overall, you felt like the Japanese attack was looking a bit more dangerous, but then we started to see from about the half an hour mark that maybe Fiji are not too far away. They looked like they'd scored their first try after finally going 10 plus phases without any knock-ons, but it was chalked off by the TMO for a knock-on that they had missed in the build-up. So try kind of initially not given, but then they got one a minute later anyway. Tatakawa trying to go for the little grubber kick through, but it bounces into one of the Fijian forwards' feet. The loose ball is hacked through one of the Fijian players, and then Karawalevu gets his first of 2 tries chasing the kick through ball, so 10 points apiece. And that's how the first half finishes. Japan does get a yellow card before half time. The hooker Harada puts in a high shot on Caleb Muntz, who Ken Laban insists on calling Muntz for whatever reason, but he's kind of dipping into the tackle. Harada hits him with a shoulder. It's a fair yellow card. It starts the second half, and they rule that it's not going to be upgraded to red, and I think that's probably a fair result because Harada could have got lower, but it wasn't too kind of egregious. But yeah, Fiji couldn't punish during the yellow card. They had a chance right before half time. Dearns was able to shut them down at line-out time. They went into sheds with that, and then Fiji couldn't score with the man advantage at the start of the second half. So the yellow card period for Fiji was probably a pretty frustrating one, to be fair. As they went into the sheds, Japan had slightly more territory. Position was even. Japan had missed a few lineouts. Fiji's was slightly better, and both sides had coughed up a little bit too much ball. 8 turnovers conceded apiece. Second half, I mentioned that the yellow card remains a yellow card. They did have a TMO check for a Fijian try, but second try for Fiji gets denied by the TMO. This one for obstruction in the build-up. I think it's a fair call, probably because the Japanese guy was still able to make a tackle attempt, but not as clean a tackle as he would have liked. So it's one of those ones that's kind of technically correct. So you go with that one. No try, but Fiji would have been pretty frustrated because, as I said, that was the second. And they, push things a little bit too much. Armstrong Ravulu hits a cross kick for Droa Sese. It goes straight into touch. And I was getting a little bit frustrated with the inability of the Fijians to convert from, the extra man advantage. But then things started to get good from a Fijian perspective. They really started to click as the intensity of the game. They just kind of pushed it up a notch. Darren Langi wins another penalty at the breakdown. Fiji opt for the three-pointer. Get themselves in front, 13 points to 10. And then they get a 2-score lead through the substitute. Why hasn't he been playing more? Because he looked exceptional. Longani Masti, the sevens man, they got the wide ball to him and he was gone. 20 points to 10. He gets 2 tries in this game. This is what I'm talking about, the width that they were able to find on the pitch. Japan had an attacking line out to try and kind of chase the game down on 63 minutes. But right as they were about to go for it, they call for the water break because it's pretty hot in Japan. The water break probably comes at a pretty inopportune time because it's kind of like a timeout, right? Fiji were actually under a bit of pressure. Commentators called this out as well, but they called a water break, so it's kind of like the coach gets a timeout. Not the same, but similar. Things settle down, then they go back to the line out. That kind of moment is gone. Japan, messy line-out ball. Fiji get it. Muntz kicks a hell of a 50-22. So all the momentum absolutely back with Fiji. And Muntz looked really chuffed with himself. It was a great kick. He was happy with it. And that leads directly to the Tuisui try. They had the TMO this one as well, but this time the TMO does give it. So he wasn't against Fiji, I guess, because the referee wasn't sure about the grounding, but it was the TMO who convinced him that it was a try. So 27 points to 10. Close range one from Albert Tuisui. He's a big unit. Hard man to stop from close range. That was game over, man. Japan are not coming back from here. And, more Fijian hands went just around the Japanese defenders. It was kind of 6s and 7s from the Japanese defenders. But as I mentioned, the intensity of the Fijians was hard to match. And, they got another one out wide. So 34 points to 10. It's starting to look pretty embarrassing. It did get worse for Japan when they just were playing desperation stuff. Dink from their own 22. Longane Masti gets his second with a kind of pick and go from the ruck and just runs straight through. It's, desperation stuff. They get punished from it by ruthless Fiji. 41 points to 10. Japan did get a consolation try through Tuitama, who had a pretty good game. With the kind of ball in hand stuff, but they did score a few tries out wide, the Fijians, so 41-17, that's the consolation score, but there was no coming back from Japan from that far behind. So yeah, man, Fiji in that second half really, really played well. Really, really fun to see them actually click after a kind of frustrating first half, but sometimes it just takes that bit of time to get the gap between your opponent. It's the test of the 80-minute performance, not the 40. Possession and territory actually edges Fiji's way. With this one, remember, it was kind of pretty even at halftime, maybe slightly edged towards Japan. 56% territory, 58% possession. Carries, they had 141 to Japan's 105, so Japan had to do a fair bit more defending. Fiji had 7 clean breaks to 4. Japan had to make 168 tackles to 126. Japan actually tackled at a higher rate, but they had to make a lot more, and Japan coughed up more ball despite having less of it. They had 19 turnovers conceded to Fiji's 14. Remember, Fiji had almost 60% of the ball across the game. Individuals, Karawa level man, 99 run meters, a couple of tries from him, getting that width out wide. Salawa had 10 carries. Riley had 10 carries for Japan. He was pretty solid. Tuitama, like I mentioned, offensively really good. 94 meters and 10 defenders beaten. Darren Langi gets man of the match, wins a couple of turnovers at the breakdown. He was always a threat. Fakatawa, 19 tackles. Tarakai Bata, 13 tackles. So, yeah, some good standout performances from these young sides. And, I look forward to seeing how both of these coaches take these sides forward into the future. But, yeah, big congratulations to Fiji. I thought it would be a bit closer, man, because Japan at home with that crowd backing them, I thought they would be able to push, but nah. When push came to shove, Fiji just too good. I'm off to bed because it is after midnight now, but if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys about some rugby sometime soon because the Box are playing Argentina in about 8 hours. You guys take care to get some.